Hello everybody, my name is Notepad Anon and I write games for fun. So what are we doing today? Well, today we're going to be working on zombies and ziggurats, as you can kind of see right here. Last time we debated, we went over and we went through everything we could try to find the answer. What is going to be Z and Z? Now, a few things happened, First things first. Bronze Age, I couldn't do it. Doesn't work. And I say it doesn't work for two major reasons. The first one really was... What the fuck is that weird moth girl? The fuck is that weird moth girl that was in the title card? Oh. Also, I'd like to thank Japanese egg roll. That's Mashiro. If I go to Mashiro, let's see, is this going to be pornography? Luckily, no, it's not pornography. This is Mashiro. Mashiro's moth wife. She is the main, I guess you would call her an antagonist in a very degenerate hentai called Layers of White and its subsequent sequels. Very fascinating work. One of the ones where I wanted to read all of them, not because of the porn, but because I was just fascinated to where the fuck it was going to go. But yeah, that's who's in the title card, actually. It's just Mashiro. The more you know. Why everybody and their mother posted on 4chan. Jesus, of course. Yes. Layers of White was actually one of those ones where it's like, it's a really good read. It's actually just really well written and very weird. It's very surreal. And of course, people want to fuck the moth, but that is notwithstanding. We also have, technically, I can do this. It's my stream. I can do whatever the fuck I want. This is Juniper. She's an EN VTuber. I don't think she's with any company. I don't think so. But it's one of the best. I believe she's directly inspired by Mashiro. I believe that was like the big thing, that she's directly inspired by Mashiro. However, she only debuted 2 years ago. Wow, that's nuts. Yeah, is that true? Yeah, she's very popular. Yeah, she doesn't actually have any... yeah, she doesn't... She's not affiliated with a company. I thought she was affiliated with a company. I think people were thinking she was going to become affiliated with a company. She just never did. But yeah, that's... Mothwife is very popular. Mashiro is a very popular one. Anyway, what are you cooking? It's the first stream. This is Zombies and Ziggurats. I can't believe it's not an OSR game. It's not an OSR game, but it's totally gonna be one. Last time we tried for about 2 hours to find this question. What is Z and Z? What is this game? Because I really had, this was it. This is what I actually had for notes. And I've been kind of struggling to be like, what do I really want to do with this game? What's the point? What we came down to after a lot of thinking was this. These were the list of things that it could potentially be. Some of these were just little like one-off ideas. Sometimes, and if you go down here, they actually got combined. Some of them were things like, oh, yeah, it's just a gigantic dungeon economy game. That's the entire point. It's not about the dungeoneering, it's about the economy of it. Or, hey, whoops, only clerics. Everybody has to play some variety of a cleric. Simply due to the fact that, hey, this could be an interesting idea. If you play, oh, you're undead. You are literally an undead character. What it finally came out to be was, hey, it's the Bronze Age. Like, this is specifically the Bronze Age, and you have to deal with all the ideas of it being the Bronze Age. That one is getting cut. I will say that. I think I'm cutting the Bronze Age idea for one reason, is that I could not find enough solid information to make it work. Because a lot of, like, when people talk about, like, history, like, ancient history, Like, when people refer to that, like, the last kind of step they talk about really is, like, ancient Greece, where it's like, oh, it's like, and shit like that, like Alexander the Great. It's the thing. What did I miss? Nothing, really. I just talked about Shiro from Layers of White. And that's when people talk kind of, like, about ancient history or anything like that. This is kind of like the cutoff point, and nobody really talks about anything else. So, like, oh, I'll go back to Bronze Age history. There really isn't that much when it comes to Bronze Age history. Mostly because we just don't have a lot of information about it. So it's like, okay, I would have to make my own, but then I kind of got caught up in things. And one of the issues with Bronze Age really is down to the fact that you don't have a lot of equipment to work with. Because everything has to be made out of bronze. Because that's the most sophisticated metal we have. So it's like, okay, maybe not that one. Insanity Fantasy was the entire idea that you are... It is an OSR game built around the core concept that you are driven to adventure and to find gold. Gold is your currency. Gold is the way you level up, because legitimately, that's what you eat. You eat the gold, you consume the gold, you do something with the gold. Because the... Yeah, and Nasir, who had a 100-stone talent of hate mail. Yeah, and Nasir. Like, one of the big things, these are the kind of the 3 points that I wanted to go with. Is leveling is a real thing in setting. These are my 3, lines in the sand. Leveling is a real thing in setting. People know that you are level 2. People know that you are level 3. Seems kind of gamey and weird, but I felt that would be kind of interesting and kind of funny to kind of work around, kind of. The world fundamentally knows that you are a level 3 fighter or whatever, and you should be respected as such. And that's kind of a thing. Not necessarily, here, let me pull up my status screen, haha, isekai bullshit. No, none of that native isekai shit, but it's like, there's an aspect to it. Dungeon delving is a main factor of the entire experience. This was going to be like, dungeon delving is the name of the game. If you are not delving into a dungeon, you are not playing this game. And then I wanted to make it explicitly fantasy with kind of the sub one, as I think proposed by you, Wordsworth, which was high fantasy, low life. Those were my 3 lines in the sand. The Bronze Age aspect got cut solely because I could not find a good reason to go dungeon delving. And it was like, this isn't really working, and I was like, okay, what do I cut here? It was more me working around that rather than it working with other parts. That was kind of the idea with that one. If I were to do anything in the Bronze Age, it would most likely be another BCS game. Mostly because I think that could be interesting, more talking about, like, it's about the city-states, it's about what you have, it's about more of the kind of like the urbanization of people. That could be fun. But this isn't that game. Insanity Fantasy was, again, the idea that things like that, kind of like what we consider like aspects of OSR, are very real in setting. Yes, adventurers are not only real, they are a factor that people are somewhat worried about, because they go in there, they get stronger the more of this, the more money and shit they find, because they're all half-dragon nightmare creatures that we're all somewhat scared about. Adventurers are scary. We don't like adventurers. You are an adventurer. This one is getting cut, or kind of more along the lines of, like, it's getting chopped up and distributed elsewhere. Simply because it just didn't, like, I would need to work around this a little bit more, and it kind of betrays the other aspects of this a little bit more. So I'm like, okay, maybe that one deserves to get cut. Eat the eating gold mechanic, gain its power. Undead OSR. Are you doing the adventure egg thing where adventures of the bastard children spoil dragon eggs and hatch in taverns? No. That was kind of one of the ideas. It was pretty much like one of the ideas I had for that. I actually had a full notebook of little ideas I was writing down yesterday. One of the ideas I had for that was explicitly, you're cursed. You're legitimately cursed. And this is your thing. You are compelled to adventure, because that is your thing. You must adventure, or you must find gold and stuff to pretty much buy off this fucking curse you got. Undead OSR. Undead OSR needs, I think if this was a different game, it would work a bit better. I might see if I can incorporate that into a different project entirely. Simply due to the fact that I would want to make things very precise, and I kind of have an idea for it already, but it wouldn't be for something like this. It would be a very different game, very odd game in general, so that one kind of got cut. That really left these three as things I kind of wanted to do more than anything. It's one of the things too is that, like, how can I merge these all together, and can I do some things like that? Which slowly became, where was it? It was, kind of more something like this was kind of the original idea, but it kind of boils down to three ideas is what it kind of made it out to be. The first basic idea is, if I here just make it a little read. You're members of the faith, specifically tasked with keeping dungeons functional. In my friend's game, he had the idea of dungeons. There was a specific idea. He's based it very much off isekai anime, but let me explain a little bit. The idea was that there was this thing called the dungeon heart. Any dungeon was pretty much just a randomized course for whoever entered. If you managed to get to the heart, you got something big. But the problem is, most people went in, got some stuff, and then immediately ran out. Because it was money. Pretty much the dungeon created shit from magic. And because it created shit from magic, it wanted to protect it. And it was kind of this endless cycle of we go into the dungeon to get stuff, we come out of the dungeon, and that was kind of the economy of things. My idea with this one was quite literally, you are members of effectively an adventurer's god. You go into dungeons to keep that magic, to keep the thing flowing properly. Yeah, you're gonna have to fight through a broken dungeon. How do you fight through a broken dungeon? Carefully. That was kind of like a very basic idea. One of the other was kind of on the same vein, which we talked about very early on, which kind of always stuck with me. Pretty much more along the idea is that you are members of this undead-hating faith. You despise the undead. You despise everything about the undead. You go as 155% toward the goal of just eradicating the dead. You aren't part of the main faith, though. You are effectively worshippers of Hamukt compared to people who worship, I'm trying to think of his fucking name. I can't remember his fucking name. You are not the main faith at all. Your goal, not Sigmar. I know what you're talking about. It's RuneQuest. Yeah, Rest in Peace was a threat, not a suggestion. Yeah, it's pretty much, you are very uncomfortable to people. You are very odd. And you rolling up into town, it's like, oh fuck, we have an undead problem because these guys have shown up. That was like, okay. One other idea was kind of more playing off of this one, kind of the whoops only barbarians, as well as the other one, which is our god king killed your god king. Yeah, so it's like our god king killed your god king. Now it's our kind of job to keep him dead. You are entering into this culture. That kind of played more with like the Bronze Age thing. But then it slowly dawned on me between going kind of through all of these. I'm like, what am I really missing? Like, what's the thing that I'm missing here? I need something more centralized. I see something more focused. I need something to say, this is zombies and ziggurats, which eventually morphed into, let me see if I can write this out perfectly. It was a great idea, but it was, you're members of the faith. I don't really have a name for it yet, but you're members of the faith. Faith tasked with keeping these dreaming, partially lobotomized. Bottom. Yeah, you're members of the faith tasked with keeping these dreaming, partially lobotomized gods dreaming. The problem is, they sometimes want to wake up. Gods are endless. They will always exist and they will always not exist. The problem is, we've entered into this new land. It's kind of the idea of like, the people have entered into this new land. Oh wait, there's all these ziggurats and all these kind of like temples and shrines and shit. And we keep going into them and people don't come out. But when they do come out, they can end up having a bunch of stupid shit with them. Because what happens is, these shrines were designed to pretty much appease these slumbering beast god nightmare creatures, and they create dungeons. But we would traditionally think of what a kind of a dungeon is from their dreams. They just dream of shit they seem interesting and they want to fuck around with because that's who they are. They are almost all lobotomized. They don't really think. They're just there. You don't want them to wake up. That's the point. Originally it was, we give them sacrifices, we throw shit into the dungeon and everybody's happy. They don't like, we don't want to do that anymore, so we've now pretty much have a group of people who enter into these dungeons with the sole purpose of keeping them kind of okay. Kind of combining a few of the different ideas together, but more it's like, we've entered into this dungeon with the sole purpose of keeping this lobotomized god lobotomized. And there might be big gods, there might be small gods, but generally speaking, you go in there, you crack a few skulls, and it's like, hey, I'm the avatar of a god. I'm gonna beat your I'll beat your skull in. Why are there monsters? Because that's what these gods are dreaming of. It's like, your god is like, maybe we should stop these guys. Like, maybe just keep them lobotomized. We can't kill them. But the kind of the counterpoint to it is very much, you can go in there and you're going to be able to find aspects of them, pretty much rewards. And you leave these dungeons and you're going to effectively crystallize their dreams. These crystals are incredibly valuable because they're very magical. And they also allow you to do a bunch of dumb shit, including level up. That's kind of one of the big ideas is most of what we think of like traditional adventurers go into these things, come out with a shit ton of money, and actually use them to increase their own power. The catch is very simple. It's addictive. You always need that high. You're always going to keep getting higher until you burn out, or you can't get any more, and then you kind of start regressing. Do dead gods dream of Neko Femboy? Well, obviously, yes, and the Neko Femboys dream of dead gods, and that kids is the circle of life. But yeah, kind of a little bit surreal, like kind of like one of the ideas I was thinking about going is go more surreal. Actually, more of like the kind of like the idea of a split constantly. You always have this split between, the surreal, kind of surreal dungeons versus very grounded reality. So it's like, yeah, we're in a very kind of like mud and blood area, but like when we enter these kind of more surreal dungeons is when things start getting really weird. You have the difference between, just raw adventurers versus Yeah, that was actually one of the ideas behind that crystallized god dream, was the idea of May. You know, it's kind of like this like raw idea of like, yeah, we're pretty much using what they're dreaming of, kind of these crystallized essence of their power, to use it to boost ourselves up. You're lucky because you're part of the faith. You don't need to rely on that. You instead rely on your own god to level you up. You don't level up as quickly, but you also don't need to. You are not in there to make money or do any of this shit. No, your job is to go in there to calm it down. Keep them calm, and if need be, you lobotomize them again. You kill their avatar, you beat the shit out of their avatar or whatever, and you keep them subdued. What I want to kind of get across is not necessarily like they're like this antagonistic elder god force. They're not. They're just these entities that dream, and we can't kill them. We have no malice toward them. We just can't let them wake up, because they don't understand what's going on, and they'll probably kill us all. The best way to think about it would be, the more awake they are, the more shit they produce. You don't want them to produce more things. You want them to keep them pretty contained in their own little world, so normal adventurers can go in there, stab a few monsters, and come out with loot and loot and other shit. But yeah, no, kind of like the dichotomy between things. You have the player, the PCs. You have kind of like the the clerics, which are kind of like the PCs, versus your traditional heroes. The PCs are not part of these traditional heroes. They're not supposed to be. They're supposed to be these very separate entities. You appear in, and people are like, okay, something's gone wrong. Some people might like you. Some people might not like you. You're definitely not normal, though. You are above, but not. To you, all this shit it's work. And this is what you do. These guys, again, if you want to play the traditional kind of OSR way, you're playing these traditional heroes. You go into these dungeons, you play a bunch of shit, you get super powerful, and you get high as fuck. The problem is, you go into these things, get high as fuck, and the PCs don't. It's kind of like my idea, using these as a way to... With one of the big ideas is like justify levels, which was one idea, which is the idea, we're using the idea of May, or, God juice equal levels. The more power you have, the stronger you are. Yeah, I have absorbed a lot of these things. Yeah, I walked into a dungeon, got high, yada yada yada, now I have a giant crab monster, or pretty much. It's like, where do goblins come from? They're people who sleep in these things who don't realize where they are. Or, people who get lost in these things, turn into monsters themselves. Why do the undead, and why do zombies exist? Because these are gods, and they're trying to remember what it is to be alive. And they're really bad at it. They mimic things. They see someone enter into their their dungeon. It's one of those things, like, they see someone enter into their dungeon and then die, and then like, oh, well, that's a body, and bodies are scary, and I don't want anyone to get in here. So I dreamed up a skeleton. The skeletons don't exist outside. Like, a lot of these monsters don't really exist outside the dungeons. The issue is, when the dungeon starts going out of control, these things start leaking out. It's like, yeah, undead occur when the dungeon is broke. We fix the dungeon back up, the undead don't work anymore. So it gives us a justification for levels. It allows us for dungeon exploration. Why? Because, again, dreaming gods and all that shit. When it comes to the explicit fantasy but high fantasy low life, it's you have this kind of like this high fantasy aspect, but you have the mundanity. Again, it's that split. Like, yes, this is a very high fantasy world. The problem is a lot of that fantastic elements really only occur in these very isolated little locations, which is interesting. It kind of gives an odd way of looking at things. Like, yeah, this city has been built around this dungeon because this is what funds it. Like, this is the thing that makes sure that we keep our, keep the lights on, metaphorically speaking. Like, this makes us rich. We need to keep it going. You are a bunch of fuckwits. Like, you are a bunch of morons. Like, you are not good at your job. You just do your job. The big thing to it does allow for both mega dungeons / tiny dungeons. Because the idea would be like a mega dungeon this is a very big, very grand god, you could say. This is a gigantic temple complex that has been built pretty much to both honor and keep this thing, content. You can spend an entire campaign just going in and out of this dungeon, getting a little bit deeper each time, but then pulling back when you need to. That's the entire game, is kind of going through this single mega dungeon that changes each time. Or you go more along the lines of these tiny dungeons, which is, we have to go to this isolated shrine in the middle of fucking nowhere. We run in, we need to make sure that it stops doing shit it shouldn't. It's a tiny god. It's not a big one. It's not one that's gonna, save everyone and do a bunch of amazing shit. No. It has a tiny little bullshit shrine in the middle of nowhere. We're gonna deal with it. I could probably, if I want to be really cursed, if I want to be really, really fucking cursed, the gods, how big is the temple of the god of taxation? If I want to be really fucking cursed, what I could do is do a little bit of, it's kind of Sumerian religion with a little bit of Shintoism in there as well. This kind of the idea of being like, yeah, there were gods for fucking everything. There were shrines to anything that could physically be a god. Probably had one of these shrines. But there's also the big idea is like the players work for the big guy. You are not just that. It's like you are the god of that random rock over there. It's shit like that. Like, this is just a god of the region. We keep him asleep because he needs to. He's a lobotomite, but he's nice, and we use a long time ago we dumped bodies in there to keep him happy. We don't dump bodies in there anymore. Please go in there. The hard part would be like lore wise would be like who are the PC's god? Who is the PC's god? That would be like a big question there. Because the question would be, it's either, my ideas are either like it's kind of like a minor god of it, like pretty much minor god of housekeeping would be the best way of thinking about it. Like, your job is not, like, you are part of the god's, clergy effectively. And this god isn't the god of the nation, the god of the earth, or whatever. No. You're the god of fixing this issue right here. This is their problem. And it sucks. It's a very thankless job. And like, why do people join? Why do people become initiated in this? The idea would be more along the idea of, PC. It's like kind of like the idea like PCs are Ancient Magus Bride, where every god or fae or whatever hates Yahweh because he thinks he's greedy and doesn't want to share. It's kind of like the idea with this one is, well, why would anyone join this? Because you're a rampant criminal and they've given you an option of hanging on a noose or joining this holy crusade to keep these gods lobotomized, or it's kind of more along the lines of like, you're the guys who didn't cut it out as someone important. We still have a job for you. It's not an important job, but it's still a job. My other idea was that like it is the main god, which is more along the lines of like there is kind of like a more of a holy purpose behind thing. I don't know how I want to do this yet. Lore wise, I'm not worrying about it. It's very much, but if we want to go over this, the basic concept is play as clerics keeping dreaming gods. Play as clerics keeping dreaming god dungeons content. And full of content. Actually. There we go. Yeah, it's kind of the idea of like, yes, the Adventurers Guild is a thing. Why are Adventurers Guilds things? Because it's a job to go in there and to get some things and get back up. Sleeping gods are the ones that aren't worshipped more. Were they defeated by the current pantheon? Yeah. Like, why are some gods awake and active while others are internal? Yeah, it's also Ancient Magus Bride is pretty good. That's one of those questions like I would need to answer, but I have the basis now. This is our baseline. Like, this is a big idea. Like, this is our baseline. We can now start building on top of the baseline of what we want to do. We can worry about the lore. We can worry about this later. Why? Because I'm gonna give you all a secret. I hate writing lore. I've never been a big fan of like writing lore. I can usually get everything in my head, but just like writing it is always painful. Does sporadically about Magus Bride, like, imagine not writing your lore first and letting it inform your mechanics. Now I work it the other way. I need a mechanic for something, I usually put justification in the lore. It's, again, I have this baseline, and that's all I need. Once I have the baseline, I can start doing other things. It's odd, like I never find consistent hype about you when people... The thing with Ancient Magus Bride, my stream I can talk about this, is Ancient Magus Bride is very, it's very odd for people to talk about in some regards because it's very explicitly kind of an alien. I wouldn't say it's an alien concept, but it is a... If you're not prepared for it, this can be a little bit uncomfortable for some. Mostly because a lot of people get like here and don't really read any further. Which is understandable because Ancient Magus Bride is also... It's like, okay, maybe that's a little bit odd. But you also get some like the ideas like, this is a shoujo. This is a shoujo manga. This is like, you have to accept the fact that this is a shoujo. This is for girls, not, yeah, this is, and because it is a thing for girls, some of the writing is just like, well, as a man, I can't enjoy that. This is dumb. Like, I can't enjoy it. I mean, like, you can. But I can understand people might get a little bit turned off by it. I enjoy Ancient Magus Bride. I think it's a very cool work. I think it's very fascinating. I understand, though, why people may not appreciate it. It's published in a shonen magazine. Correct. People also say Full Metal Alchemist. Is this Code Geass? People also say Code Geass is a shonen. They're wrong. People also like to, claim that it's one of those things like, yeah, it's published in a shonen manga and stuff, but it has a lot of those shoujo things to it. You can be a guy and like shoujo manga. My friend would love to say, like, know that. Yeah, easy mode on lore. Part of me just wants to just do the basic of... yeah, that's also another one. It's people can get a little bit weirded out by the fact that, like, yes, this is a high school girl and she just married an ancient god monster thing. That could kind of freak some people out. I understand why. Yeah, Chad McChadcock, the Giga God of Awesome. Effectively, if I were to do kind of like, here's the central god, it would be Gilgamesh or something akin to a Gilgamesh-like figure. You know, hey, we invaded your land because it was full of evil shit. Our awesome god killed your gods, sealed them away. Now it's our job to keep it, keep it content. It's do be that way sometimes. Okay. So, next important question. What system are we going to be using for this? Originally, I thought it was going to do like a 2d10 versus like a target number. And I'm still leaning toward the idea of like a 2d, like that 2d10. Like, I am still leaning toward a 2d10 system. Why? Because you have a nice distribution. You have the 2 to 20 with an average of 11. That means you can kind of base things around that a lot more easily. And again, we gotta remember, we need to mimic OSR. We need to get as close to OSR as possible and keep within the same basic ideas. So kind of keeping with that, yeah, it's 2D, it's 2d10. You take 2d10s. You go roll, and you roll. I rolled a 3 and a 9, so I would have scored 12. Does 12 hit? Maybe. Again, there's a bunch of ideas. I don't know what I want to do yet. Usually shit like that ain't too important. I got the basics. That's all that matters. If I go with the 2d10, like, I wonder, like, do we even I wonder, is there a 2d10 OSR? A modular systems core book, 2d10. The fighter die. Ouroboros. This is $4. You get $4 for 4 megabytes. I have a strange feeling it's going to be like all of this. Alright, gamers. Hell yeah. Okay, so now, adaptive art. Oh god, that's a font. Oh Jesus. The fuck is this? 2 years ago. We're 2d10 core. 2d10 core. Always bad when you see a game you just never fucking heard of. The fuck is this? Catcher? Oh. Oh. Yeah, I never The fuck is this? It's a pork bun has not put up a site yet. Audiomancermedia.com. No. Audiomancer.com. No. Okay, we have a name. Audiomancer Media. Audiomancer. This it? We make things. Okay, our website, humans, like, this them? I guess this has to be them. Yeah, okay. Because this has the same... It has the same thing. Is that it? What the fuck is this? Isaiah Pet. Humans versus robot. Again, the font looks right, but this is all 5e stuff. Like, this isn't... If it is this, I don't know why they wouldn't be talking about it more. I mean, like, Isaiah Petty. Isaiah Petty TTRP. Isaiah Petty like... Would it be Audiomancer? Yeah, Audiomancer Media. Is this him? I guess that would be him. Yeah, so... Yeah, Isaiah Petty. Wonder, do we have another name? Steve Petty. Do we have anything for Steve Petty? I'm assuming they're brothers? Humans vs. Yeah, okay. Edited by Steve Petty. So yeah, these have to be... Okay, we're not gonna look at that because the Turkish filter is activated. Fuck is this? Yeah, so this has to be them. If we... Yeah, it registers here. Okay. It is them. The fuck is this? So you just don't... What? Nani? Complete sidetrack. I just get mystified by some of these... Like... Are we about to expose Big D10? No, I'm more, like, mystified by things. Yeah, okay, this has to be it, because that's the same symbol. Like... They have to have DM me your dungeons. Designer 2D10 core. They haven't talked about anything for like 2 years. But it is the guy. Updated beta 1 linked beta 2 with organizational beta 2 2D10 core. This should be beta 2 artless. Yeah, so this is the latest version of the 2D10 core and adaptive RPG of... I'm always mystified anytime I find things like this. Just like I'm curious, like I have to know more. You know what? Let's save this, everybody. We're gonna save it. I'm gonna save it to my folder because I am perpetually fascinated by things like this. I don't think you guys quite understand. I love finding weird shit. But yeah, it doesn't look actually like there's any 2D10 OSR. Cool. Okay, so let's keep with 2D10 OSR, I guess. So if we keep it to 2d10, most likely we're going to have pretty standard attributes, probably ranging if we're keeping the attributes pretty standard. Greedy 20, drop high and low. I still need to make the game fun, Salt. You gotta remember that key fact of I still need to make the game entertaining. See, here's the curse thing though, what we could do with 2d10 though, is that we could make it a d100 game as well. That would be the real cursed moment. See, again, this is the real bastardized moment. What I could do. What was the game that did that? There was a game that did that. I can't remember. Oh, I know it. Okay, how vile do you think I could go with this? Because there was another game that did this. With D100 combat and with D20 with D10 resolution. There's another game that did this. How evil do you think I could get? Like, just how despicable? Like, end of the year, my karma is set. How evil do you think I could get? Because there was another game that did this. Because the other game, now I remember doing this, was a game we went over already. Hear me out. I didn't know they had a full store. The fuck are you The fuck? I didn't know they had all this. Oh. Oh no. Oh no. Okay, notwithstanding. Expansion. Oh, yeah, you can. I forgot you can download all the Fallout Equestria stuff. Let's see. Are any of you here? Yeah, God bless it. We could do that. Hear me out for D100 skill checks. That's just 2D. That'd be exactly my exact flavor of autism. It's an interest. Yeah. See, what we could do. Now, here's the thing. If we do the 2D, let's say 2D 1000, so we'll call it that, just because I hate, things sounding good. Well, it's not going to be D2000. That's not the point. That's not what we're going to be doing. What we could do is 2D10 for, like, I would say 2D10 for skill checks, but a D100 for combat checks. We keep it generous. If you just want that, just play Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. If we do this, the entire idea is that your skills aren't going to be that high. I mean, if we keep standard attributes around, like, with a range of, let's say, like 2 to 2 roughly, you aren't going to have much, but we can have our standard, we have our, like, standard strength, constitution, just your basic dexterity that uses base 20 math system. 2d20. No, I can't do that, most likely because Modiphius would break my legs if I tried that. Strength, constitution, dexterity. We'd also have, if we're going off raw, we have the big six. Let's just think of the big six. If we want to be cheeky about things, if we are doing this version, we can also do use it, you coward. No. We can also do the black hack method, which would be, I believe it's body, willpower, agility, or it'd be just, I think it's just dexterity. Dexterity and body, willpower, dexterity, and what's the fourth one? It's an off-kilter one, I remember that. It's something that makes sense, but it makes no sense at all. Black hack, yeah, black hack just doesn't use this. Thinking it. The mech hack was the one that cut it down to 4. Don't do this. Don't do this to me. Okay. Curse Tristat would be an option. However, again, let's think about this. We want what are we really working for? We're already going to be doing this, maybe. Maybe. I don't know yet. If again, this is me being cursed. Maybe we do something along the lines of body, again, basic one, body, mind, soul. Those are our very simple one. Maybe we do something like strength. Actually, when in doubt, why not use amber, everybody? We could use body warfare, which would kind of split the idea there, which is hitting versus just how good are you at combat versus how good are you at like just actually like lifting. This would be like bonus damage. We can just do something like agility. We'll call it something like, again, bear with me here, we're actually a little bit there. If we do this idea a little bit more like no skills and it's 30 plus attributes, that's just a skill system. BD 10 in a row for each. Yeah, that's just a skill system by another name. I did a video on this. Or most accurately, a bad skill tribute system to be used there. What would be a good? Again, if we keep it, let's just keep it. Let's do a little OSR stats. We just want to do OSR TTRP stats. Are all the stats really needed? Let's go back to Reddit. I hate it. Wow, I hate it already. We want to go with the most traditional idea of an OSR. We want to stick as close as possible to OSR. We need our strength stat, we need a constitution stat, which is born along the idea of bonking things, surviving things. Dodging things, which would be more like agility, which would be dodging things. But we can actually probably apply dexterity to this pretty. We would need to do intelligence, which would be knowing things. Wisdom is like, wisdom would be like the dump stat. We don't need wisdom as much because everyone's going to have wisdom. But then we're going to like, we switch it to strength, con, and dex, intelligence. Charisma would be like, then we have like charisma, and then I guess you could put in like something like soul in there, which would be more like your spiritual, which would be more like spiritual juice. Charisma would be more like force of personality. But we're dealing with a fucking... This isn't as important. This is, we can go with more of the Pendragon. I guess we can go with more of the Pendragon. Strength and con. Strength and con, like, if you ever were to tell me you have to cut stats down, strength and con immediately gets put into bod. Or like to body. I call it bod. I always shorten it to bod, so it's just bod. Always gets shortened to body. I usually just turn dexterity into agility. Not like, oh, dexterity and agility. I usually put everything into agility. Let's think about this, though. Let's, I just got an idea. Let's have body, which is physical, which is more overt physicality. Overts physicality. We then do agility, which is nimble physicality. Then we do intelligence is always an odd one because like you always feel like you need it, but is intelligence mandatory? Is this going to be what would be a good change for an intelligence stat? Because again, we're not going to be casting spells traditionally. Spells are not like like things like spells. Spells are not tied to intelligence. Let's just say that right now. Spells aren't tied to intelligence. I already have that as an idea. Don't need it. We're clerics. I can't believe this is wowie zowie. We're all clerics. I don't need intelligence as much. Since we're all playing clerics, that's not going to be a thing. But I also don't want to have wisdom in that circle either because that's not a thing. We don't need it. Comeliness, I can never put insight, actually. Insight is a good word. That would be a good word. That is a good idea. I like it. We can do insight, which would be more scholarly. I guess we call it scholarly knowledge. We then do... Perception will always be... I will always say this. Perception is the hardest fucking thing in the world to put in a game. I will always say that. Because there's a distinct issue with perception. And take heed, developers. The one major issue with perception is that I, right now, can perceive this D20 in front of my face. I'm holding a D20 in my hand, moving it in my fingers, I'm perceiving it. Now I'm describing to you this D20 I'm rolling it through my fingers. It's on, I have it on my index finger and my thumb right now. I'm holding it there. I'm kind of holding it up in my palm now. I can kind of grab it. I can, I can kind of, I'm jiggling it around in my hand. But I want to ask you a question. What color is that die? That's always one of the major issues with perception. It's things that are very obvious. Very obvious. But you sometimes don't say it. And it's one of the... Wuso talked about this once. It was really stupid the way he put it, though. Effectively, what you don't see, what you aren't iterated upon, you don't know. And the problem with perception is... it has to quantify that for everything. you could make a check and not understand that what color it is, because that's an option. That's kind of an exaggeration, but it's shit like that. That's why we had in 4E fucking bear lore and shit, where we needed to check to make sure like all of that was a thing. It was yellow, by the like that's one of the issues with perception, is that like as a player you can say, well, this makes sense that I can see this because it's in front of me. As a GM, it's this makes sense they can see it because it's in front of them, but they still need to make a check on it because that's what the game says you have to make a check on. It's like ugh. I guess we can do not spirituality, we can do soul. Soul be the right answer? Let's actually see all stats. All D&D 1E all stats. Development. Brains, looks, credibility, health, strength, courage, horsemanship, woodsmanship, leadership, flying, seeming, cunning. Actually, we can do we keep the idea of force of will and self, otherwise known as your ego, which, dealing how we're going into a nightmare dream dimension, having a good ego score would be very useful. Because if we go down here, we go like that's why I usually don't call for perception checks. I always find them kind of stupid. I find them silly sometimes, the way that and how they can be kind of poorly implemented. We'll say this nicely, poorly implemented. Rip, I will never be a pervert of the Bronze Age and Z&Z. Damn, zippity zam, we're doing it. See, it's always bad, you know. I always see new people enter the server, and I see them like, wait a second, are you? I always got to double check now. Yeah, well, always if I saw the plate armor on a body. Yeah, like anytime I make a perception check, it's usually like this thing is like deliberately hidden. Make a perception check real fast, or I'm fucking with the players. That's usually another option I do, is to fuck with the players, because I can do that. Because I'm a mean GM. 6, 1, 2, 4. We add in. Again, if you're fucking with the players, I usually make an abundant point to I fuck with the players. That's the thing. Like, this is very much. That's how I simulate paranoia more than anything. Like, something's very wrong. If we do agility, so we're breaking down a door. Body, I kick down the door. Agility, I'm, kind of like Jimmy the door open, just bunk it open. Insight is knowing how the door opens. Ego is expressing the self. That's kind of how we're going to be using spells more than anything. I guess we can do it as more of like a like I'm missing something. See, this might be like one of the few times in the world I can ever justify adding in a in luck. I don't really have a good way for to kind of say it, but yeah, luck. You just have luck. It's a quantifiable resource. If I wanted to, we add in health here. With the idea of health being that it's not strictly an attribute necessarily, it's more of it's a way to derive a bunch of other things. Having a high health means like you're just naturally more healthy. Agility is your ability to express it. Body is your way to kick down a door. Health is understanding that you know your body and can't take it. You can be physically strong but not the healthiest person in the world, but you can also be very healthy but maybe not the most strong. It's also kind of be more, it would be kind of breaking things down. You wouldn't necessarily be making any health or that even, I think. This makes it a strength. That just makes it a strength con thing again. Maybe that work. I'm missing. I'm missing. Always funny when you see something and you're like, What am I? Health is what you get from eating apples. Yeah. Yeah. Because here's the thing. What we could do... No, what we can do is we can actually steal a little bit from Pillars of Eternity. For our health system, we can actually steal a little bit from Pillars of Eternity. Not the tabletop game, the Vidya, actually. The idea of kind of like an endurance, like raw health split. That could be interesting. We can kind of play around with that. Kind of like the idea of like you have an over health. You have a high over health, but you also kind of have like a under health that's a lot more permanent, but a lot lower. So you can have like, say for example, we'll say like 30 endurance, or you can have, and you'll have like you'll have like like 8 maybe, like what con or whatever. I don't know what to call it really at this point. We'll say integrity, like 8 integrity, where it's like, yeah, you can take that, you can restore that 30 endurance, relatively simple. It's like that health though is a little bit complicated. I mean, or if we want to make it, really fucking mean, we can do something like this, where it's like you can restore your endurance fairly easily, but it's a lot lower than your integrity score, or whatever I want to call this, kind of this under health system. But like during rests and stuff, you restore your endurance, you don't restore your integrity. So you need actual rest and relaxation. If integrity hits there, you must accept an established title sponsorship deal. Yeah, no, again, if established titles, you're based out of Hong Kong, and you know what? I'm in. Hit me up. All I'm saying is, hit me up, established titles. I'll take the money. You'll get your ad read. I call it an absolute win. I win, you don't. I get paid. It's great. Do you want to buy land in Scotland? But yeah, okay. So we can use these ones. Let's keep our standard attributes. Maybe we want to bump up the attribute limits there. So if we're keeping this solid, let's just say like this is, we'll say 2d10 versus target number. We don't really need you. We don't really need logisms, maybe? I don't know. We want to do this. Story lore, which is playing as clerics in Dreaming Gods Dungeons, happy and full of Game Gods Dungeon, basic system. Simple but robust. We need these to keep this as simple as possible. So if we want to keep things, if we want to keep standard attributes like these pretty decently, but maybe we can feed this into the like health system. It's not going to be called a health system, but we can have the idea of like endurance versus kind of like over versus under health. I really don't have a better name for it, but it's kind of like the idea of like you have this over versus this under, which we then put another note right down here. We'll do 10E/1, actually 10O/, actually we'll do 15O/1E, like 5E, kind of like the, over health is larger than endurance health, or we do like 5O 15E, which is, it's kind of like which one's higher. I kind of am leaning toward this one if we want to have the mud and blood aspect a little bit, which I think keeping the mud and blood, it's which we can do actually mud, blood, and the surreal. Mud, blood, and the surreal. Mud, blood, and the surreal, which we want to keep the idea of advancement. Advancement is using God juice. Advancement is using God juice. to increase in level. Advancement is using dodge use to increase in level, which does play into another idea I had, which was the idea of our class system. The idea of the class system was going to be pretty simple. It was like everybody starts as like an initiate, because kind of like your base class, but then you get to expand off into different class. Like then after you pretty much hit level 1 or level 2 effectively, you then can kind of split off between something like, you know, you can become a Templar, you know, kind of the Templar, which is more of like your warrior base. You kind of go down to be kind of more of the Cleric, which is a Cleric, just kind of like a more raw Cleric, or like kind of like your basic 3-man split. These aren't the final names. I was thinking kind of more like a tier system. I think that could be kind of like 3 tiers for each. So I kind of want to put that in there because I feel like I can, and I think it'd be fun. But more along the idea, like, I can go something like, oh, I want to take my first level in this, my second tier in that, and then my third tier here, and this is a valid class. If I maybe want to do like, oh, I want to go for Templar, then I want to go and quit, my second rank rogue or whatever, and then my third rank of my Cleric, this is valid. That's completely fine. So it's kind of like the idea of like, you can start at like a rank 1 here, but then your rank 2 class could be something over here, and your rank 3 can be kind of anything you want. So that pretty much turns a smaller number of classes. It pretty much makes a smaller number of classes a lot more, because then you're starting to stacking up on each other. This is a little bit from Sword World, which I can probably steal a few more concepts from. If I really want to, if I really want to, I could just outright steal a few ideas from that. I don't know how I want to do that yet, but if we make our basic system just 2d10 versus a target number, maybe we can make maybe we do 2d10. If we do 2d10 versus TN, which is our basic, kind of our basic check. See if we really want to do something. It's I would say here's my options. Let's do my options. With just a very basic 2d10. We can do 2d10 versus attribute roll over, which is, attribute at 10, roll 11 success. We can do 2d10 versus attribute roll under. Roll under is fairly popular, which would be attribute at 10, roll 11 is a failure. So you're more your thing is with here is you'd be more predisposed to failures. Or we can do 2d10 versus target number, which would be kind of like a very standard kind of target number version. Attribute, it's a TN at 10, roll 11 success. This one's the more traditional one. Kind of like players pulling double doing magic users, or you just not having heretic wizards. Pretty much the idea is the basic concept, you could say, is, if I go down here, everyone is a quote cleric. Everybody is a cleric by default. You are all clerical in some of your abilities and some of your ideas, which is things like you're going to have access to heals. You're going to have access to things like turn undead. And, it's kind of the idea of like, you are a cleric. you have a lot of abilities that are kind of more set in stone. This isn't going to be Vancian necessarily, but as a cleric, you can only ask so many things. Like, that's kind of the ideal. It's not Vancian, but it's Vancian in its own way. So it's like when I call it a cleric, it's me just saying a caster. It's the idea of going down like Templar, like the quote Templar. I don't have a good name for these yet. Going down, this would be your fighter X cleric. The cleric would be more your, wizard X cleric. Inquisitor would be your rogue X cleric. Everybody is already a cleric. You just get to determine this. What flavor of cleric are you playing today? Who'd you subscribe to? And brother in Christ, if they're already going down GFE, this is not good. Triple Q. All right, everybody. Let's all make fun of McDrusel's shit-tasting waifus. McDrusalt. Oh. Okay. That's very different. That's very different, you know. I know what you're saying here. I got a little bit worried here. I just got a little bit worried here when you're like, man, I'm watching Triple Q, this triple one, and this is the first one that pops up. I'm just a little concerned there, McDrusel. Just a little concerned. Yeah, blame the yeah, it's Spiffing Brit. I know what you're talking about. It's how the game works, man. That's the unfortunate thing. That's just kind of how the you got to appeal to the algorithm at this point. We could just do a set number. That's another option that we could do, just to be very cursed. Because if we go the idea that it's 2d10 versus target number, 2d10 plus versus target number, then we establish the fact that it pretty standard. And we can or do we keep things or do we stick with our guns a little? Stick with the OSR nightmare and we do like a roll under system. Or we say fuck this entirely and just make it a D100 system. D100, roll under, roll your fucking stats. That is an option. That's a very cursed option. I could just say fuck it, we're doing a D100, but that doesn't seem right. Let's think about this. want to think about this because I can. Pretty busy this week getting that video done that you all are watching. Right there. Lean back. 2d10 versus target number means that we have a more established baseline where we can base things around. An average would just be an average check would effectively just be. So it says roll 2d10, try to hit your target number. You're good, you're bad. Fail. Very simple, very understandable. This is it OSR, however. OSR games tend to have roll under an attribute of some variety. If we want to do that, maybe we can. Welcome to game design, by the way, where I just sit here all over things I might help because I sometimes can't. Ideal thing that I want. Because the problem is I can't just like say, oh, this is just the traditional OSR because OSR games are so fucking diverse these days. It's okay. Let's think of this. Let's think of this logically. We're already using 2d10. We already are established averaging. We want our stats to give bonuses. Stats to be simple, and we want stats to be understandable. Why don't we have 2d10 versus 2d10 versus a set target number for everything, slightly modified up and down. Because if we say, let's say, 2d10 versus 15. 2d10 versus 15, you must always hit a 15, not hit a 15. Maybe we go down the route of 2d10 versus. If we do 2d10 roll over, that means our stats need to be not terribly high. Pretty much getting higher stats means the worse you're going to be hitting up. Roll under, however, means stats are going to need to be about 10 or higher. The associated fucking issue. Alternatively, go with something completely erratic. And 1d100 roll on your attribute. 1d100 roll under your effectively make it a no, that ain't gonna work. No, I think the only option we have here really that is target number. I think that's really the only option. Because rollover attribute doesn't work because then the attributes are going to have to be way higher, and being higher and higher is just going to be a penalty. Awkward. No one's going to. We do roll under attribute. Suddenly, higher attribute better. The problem being our averages 10 are gravitate 11. We're going to gravitate toward 11. We're going to need an attribute place. Roll badly, you're fucked. So maybe that's what we want to do. Been one of those. Because I want. If we keep with the idea that we have we want to randomize. That's important. We want randomized stats. Don't know what you're going to end up. That's the point. Fuck it, because these characters are supposed to be kind of disposable. They're gonna die. You're gonna be lost to this dreaming god. That's the point. You're a bunch of fuckwit. You're hardy, but you're not immortal. That's the problem. You're immortal. Very. Hmm. Okay. Let's think. We need to look at something. Let's start looking at something. Maybe we can find something to reference. Maybe we can find something to even understand what we're. Maybe I'm not looking at something right. Maybe I need to look at something different. Hmm. Hmm. What am I looking for here? I know there's an answer. I don't know what it is. This is always one of those things where I always see, I'm like, there must be a choice here. Because you would think there has to be an answer here somewhere. There has to be a thing here. And I don't know what it is. Because if we keep it... I think we have to go with 2d10 versus target number. We keep the simple mechanics. However, for combat, we mix things up for combat maybe. Now, if I want to be very cursed with combat, what we could do is we can do let's see. We can do the idea of guaranteed action. If we really want to be, we can go back to crisis heroin, everyone. If you choose to attack, you're going to hit. Just with the unfortunate concept of you having to do that. So it's more along a line. It's more of a puzzle than anything. Because I don't want to be like super duper detailed into combat, because I don't feel that that's the point of this game. I don't think that's the point of. Isn't that what Morkborg does? Morkborg has a D20 involved with everything, I think. Morkborg isn't a game, Drusult. You have to remember that key fact of life. Another option is... Another option would be use... what am I thinking of? Effectively use D100 versus... D100 versus... a thing. And so it would be... Hey, I want to make an attack. You've hit. You've done something. You've rolled, and you're hitting or you're missing or something like that. But half of me feels like that's not appropriate either. We've ran into a conundrum, everybody. And a conundrum I need to think about, because there's really no good fucking answer for this. I would say, like, currently, like, right now... 2d10 versus target number for skill checks is the most simplest, easiest answer. This is the answer which gets us to our goal as fast as possible. But is that what we want? I don't know yet. I like Lamentation Specialist class. Fuck you. I think it's a good idea. I mean, fuck. When in doubt. Let's see. Let's check my other folder. Maybe. Am I seeing something? Is there an answer that I am not seeing? And if there is an answer I'm not seeing, what is it? That's the ultimate secret. Is there an answer, and am I not seeing it? I mean, if we look at, like, let's say, like, the white hack, for example. Like, this is white hack. This is probably one of the simplest ways of doing things. Equal to or under the appropriate attribute. Task is successful, otherwise it is not. Maybe are we looking at something different? Maybe I'm getting too caught up in this. That is entirely likely that I'm getting just too caught up in this idea that it has to be like a very certain way. Because I'm thinking it has to be a certain way, I'm getting caught up in it. Seems like a funny meme game. Goblin Slayer entirely uses 2d6. Yeah, just uses d2d6. So this isn't as useful. This just uses a... welcome to the fucking So you're just going to be rolling 2d6. This is a set value. Maybe I can afford to keep it set value. Maybe I'm getting too stuck up on... Maybe I'm getting too stuck up on it. That like it has to be a very certain way. Because I'm getting too stuck on it saying it has to be a very certain way. The attributes check target is equal to 20 minus. Maybe we can do something like that. Maybe we do attributes. Maybe we do something along the idea of attributes minus 20. We'll do, if we do attribute minus 21, we keep it with the idea of godbound. What would occur is this would be your set value with lower attribute values. So if I have an attribute of 12, that would mean I would need to hit a, if we have an attribute, let's just make my life easy, attribute score of 11, that means I would need to hit a 10. Which you're going to hit by default most of the time because you're rolling a fucking 2d10. So, yeah, But you wouldn't get, but with this you wouldn't end up with +1, +2, so it would just be a raw roll the 2d10. Go with my gut. Let's go with my gut here. Let's just write it out. 2d10 versus target versus is your skill checks. If I want to do something, and my attributes are going to aren't going to be super high, but maybe I can see what I can do to maybe get those to be certain ways. These are not supposed to be super high. Most of the time they're going to be like either like a 0 or a +1 or a -1. Something very simple. I'm going to be rolling my 2d10. I'm going to roll my dice. I rolled a 6 and a 7. That means I rolled a grand total of 13. 13, target number was 10. I've succeeded. Let's say I have a +2. I rolled a 9 and a 3. I rolled a 12 with a +2. I rolled 14. I've beat the target number. We do intervals of 3. So it would be 10, 13, so it would be 7, 10, 13, 16, 19, 22, 25 would be the intervals of difficulty, so it wouldn't really be that bad, but because we're going to be doing with things at a certain time, the bonuses, we're subbing out a lot of the raw bonuses, and instead you're going to be getting a lot more side bonuses. It's far more chaotic than the 2d6 of something like Sword World or Goblin Slayer, but that's the point. It's supposed to be a little bit more chaotic. A little bit more chaotic. We have a little bit more wiggle room to do stuff with. But we've got this. We tie it to the health system here. What do we want to do for combat? We can keep the same idea for combat. We can either keep the same idea for combat, or we deviate for combat entirely. If we deviate, what do we do? Deviate. Because in Dames of Astoria, your main system was technically you had to make a dodge check versus an attack, which is almost always guaranteed to hit you because your dodge chance is always hellishly low. So if we want to do we want player facing it? Do we want We can have player-facing enemies. That's kind of an option we have to think about. Like, do you want to do player-facing enemies? We do player-facing enemies. Everything would just be a target number for the everything there would just be a target number for the players at that point. And you as a player are not necessarily, I'm going to hit this person. You're going to say, I'm going to hit this person, you're rolling the hit, and I want to dodge being attacked. They're going to hit you unless you do something. Unless you dodge, you're going to get hit. Unless you do this, you're going to do it. Like, that's the issue. Hmm. Hmm. Do we want to commit to, like, do we want to commit to the D100 combat system, though? Do we commit to the D100 combat? That's the question. Part of me really wants to. Another part of me is thinking, no, Notepad, that's a terrible fucking idea. That is a god fucking awful concept. Why would you ever think of that, you stupid fucking moron? And the answer is because it's stupid and I think it could fucking work. It's... If we keep combat simple enough, we could make it work. How would we make it work? If we... I mean, let's think about it like this. Let's think about it like this. Player-facing enemies. Player-facing enemies. Player wants to bonk enemy with weapon. They're going to need to do D100 verse. This is going to be D100 verse target. It's going to be versus target dodge. Versus target dodge rating. Player uses like precise, maybe use like precise aiming or something, gets a +20 to their roll to do that. Target dodge rating is, let's say, 30, which means with a +20, effectively you need to roll over a 30. Under a 30? Roll under's the easy answer. Roll over would be kind of an oddity. If we do, like, maybe we can just add like a target's like just raw defense rating. Like, it's just like, this is their defense and they have a defense of either, you know, target's defense is either block or dodge. If it's block, it's kind of the idea like they're just taking the damage, while dodge would be they're trying to get out of the way of an animal is going to try to dodge. And it, like, if you're in full, full fucking plate armor or whatever, you're going to try to start blocking. Just make a D200 system like an adult. Hey, I already have the D2000 system. That's the best part. Rollover is the big meme. Roll under would be the simple answer. We do this. We do something along the idea of during a combat scene. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. They score over and under the hit, dealing weapon damage. That would also mean we would need to determine our, I guess again, if we have the idea of block dodge, which is blocking is explicitly tanking the blow. Armor increase it. Armor shields and hardiness increases blocking. I'm taking the blow on my armor. I'm taking the blow on my shield. It's you putting something in front of you, like bang, I've blocked. Bang, I'm resisting the attack. Dodge, on the other hand, would be avoiding the blow entirely. Yeah, so it's kind of the difference being like, oh, I want to dodge. Okay, you want to dodge, you're gonna have to do this. Certain attacks can only be dodged. Certain attacks may only be able to be dodged. So if we do it that idea, it's like, okay, you're blocking. Or we just say fuck it and keep the entire 2d10 system in place, or we just make the gimmick something else. We make the actual core premise of the game something a little bit different. I take it all back. We're just doing the center system. D100 roll between two numbers. God. This game still needs to be entertaining, McDrewsalt. You always got to remember that. I still need to make this a fun game to play. I actually, for a half a second, for a millisecond, I did think about making this a center system game. Just to fuck with everybody. Just so I could claim that the center system is OSR. What is entertainment, though? My thing is, this game still needs to be played by people who don't get the gimmick and don't get the fun, don't get the funny of what this is. Who legitimately just say, I want to play a game. I want to open up the book and I want to play it. That's one thing I usually try to go into. What if somebody doesn't really know what the fuck they're doing and just wants to play the game? I could put in a bunch of gimmick mechanics and just have this is just a gimmick game, but I still need to try to make it like a functional flowing entity. Not one of these games that just constantly just throws bizarre things. Like, yeah, I've made games like those and they're fucking stupid. I really disliked them. I still need to fix them. I'll think on this. We didn't get too much done today, unfortunately, but I think we've got the baseline for everything we needed to done. That's the most important now. I will determine what this is. I will do this. If I do not do it, guess what we're doing during the end of year stream? You're right, everybody. We're going to be fixing this up. The end of year stream will probably be tomorrow, maybe, or it might be the first. I don't know yet. What is the end of year stream going to entail? It's going to entail me finishing things, everything at once. So be prepared. Godspeed, good luck, we will finish this. I'm tired though, so I'm going to mull this over and cry, because I don't know, and I hate not knowing things. It always feels like I'm just staring into the void. So, thank you very much, Godspeed, good luck, and I'll see you all on the flip side.